council manager form of government, which we have. We chose not to take on the mayor council form of government. We chose to take on the council or keep the council manager form of government. All of the council representatives must live in the city of Huber Heights because they're representing the city of Huber Heights. Now, the city manager, and this is just my opinion, would better serve the community if he were or she were, whoever the city manager is at the time, living in Huber Heights. I thought this was set in stone, and then it
was at the time that this was written, and it was enforceable at the time that it was written.
And there's nothing at this time in the contract that says he's allowed not to live in the city of Huber Heights.
It doesn't speak to it either way. There's nothing in his contract that requires him to live or move into the city within a certain time frame.
So the only, I guess, I'm the only thing that keeps. I'm curious why hasn't the charter been upheld since, like, I don't think the charters, like, they're not looking, you understand what I'm saying? They're not.
Why has he not been forced to Huber?
Because it overlaps this period. I don't know exactly when the decision came down, but it's been in the last couple of years, which roughly parallels about the time the current city manager.
Is that, you're saying, based on Dayton's residency rule?
The thing is, Dayton challenged it all the way up, and then by the Ohio Supreme Court making the final determination on this, it applies as case law throughout the state, to every community, not just to Dayton.
I think one of the differences, too, between the council and the city manager is council are elected officials versus a hired official.
True, but we've adopted the council manager form of government. And my way of thinking, and it could be wrong, but whoever council decides is going to be our city manager would best, and I'm not saying, there's nothing I can pick out that says, anything that our city manager has done wrong, or, that's not our place. What I'm saying is, I think that our city manager and council is best serving the people by living and working in Huber Heights. I think that was important to them when they wrote this document, and I think it's important, at least to me. I don't know how everybody else feels.
I agree with you conceptually that it would be in a perfect legal world, the city manager live within the jurisdiction that he's managing.
Sure.
Given the legal result from the state Supreme Court saying that you can't do that, we don't have the option. It doesn't sound like to me, which is why we're going to check with the law director to find out how the wording is.
Chief executive officer.
Otherwise through employment.
Yeah. And I, with what you're saying, that, in my opinion, trickles down to every department. I understand why Dayton had residency rules, because even in our department, I feel that those of us who live in town kind of appreciate things a little better, because when we're not at work, we're still
at home.
We're still here, we still see things. Whereas those, once they leave the city, they don't see anything unless they get a phone call to come look at it.
When Dayton had the residency rule, that's why Forest Ridge was such a well-protected area.
Sorry, Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Rogers, when we have our law director review this, I'd also like him to review the city of Lama versus the state of Ohio in reference to Section 9.48. Also, the memorandum set up by the city of Cincinnati in 2014 regarding residential requirements, and also 731.28 and 731.11 of the ORC. These have been conversations that's been had by residents of this city. I'm going back since July of last year questioning this, not only on city forums, but also with elected officials with no answers. I know that, to the best of my knowledge, our city attorney has never put out a death-defying memo or statement on this matter. And I know each one of you this evening, my apologies again, received a email from a resident of the city who questioned this particular item in the charter. And I've sent that to each one of you to review in lieu of getting the information back from our city attorney. This has been challenged by the city of Dayton, yes, but it's also, in my opinion, from my interpretation, has been upheld by the city of Cincinnati decision in the city of Lima. Also, it's been done in the city of Arlington. So it's not a new topic in the state, but I really think that it's due time that we kind of sink our teeth into it and get a clarifying answer.
Are you saying in those other communities it was done by an agreement or in another way?
It's and again, I don't have their city manager, contract or anything like that. I know it's something that they have also been to court over, and there's been several memorandums. I know myself and Mr. Otto did a lot of homework on this last year. 30-plus documents of information, research that we've done. We'd be more than happy to share with the commission the research.
You're going to email me the citation?
Correct, yes.
Forward them on to the city attorney.
What was that, 730-31 what?
731-28, 731-31.
Yeah. I just wanted the one. I get the area.
Google.
Okay. Well, I'd like to just kind of make a point here that we've had revolving city managers here over the years, and I think that what we have right now, you will not find a more committed city manager than Mr. Schulmer is, whether he lives in the city or not. By stipulating that, doesn't address the quality of who you are getting. And I believe that he is just like any other city employee here that might come from another community. They're good, they're valuable, they're no less committed to the city than anybody that lives here. And to put a stipulation on there might keep us from getting a real good candidate.
And with all due respect to the Burge, understand, and we this committee as well discussed this many times previously, any decisions
or thoughts that we have currently on this charter is not with those who are in office at this current time. We are making clarifying points to the charter that need to be updated no matter who's in office now or 20 years from now.
I understand that, but
all your points are well taken, trust me.
And I would say that this community is full of very, very bright people. Very bright people. They're out there. If someday Mr. Schomer, when he retires and Huber Heights needs to bring somebody else in, and this stipulation isn't being put up by us. This stipulation was already put in. There's been court cases fought back and forth as we're talking about. But this city's got a ton of bright people that would be more than qualified to fill a city manager position here in Huber Heights.
Well, then I would have to ask Tony, when Schomer came in, how many candidates did we have? Do you remember? 4? And where were they from?
They were not specific, but I can tell you the city of Vandalia hired the city manager exactly.
Microphone.
I asked that question as a resident.
The mayor was one of them. I still remember he was wanted to be the city manager.
He still does, but that's okay. there were.
For you.
Well, he said that when the city could hire him cheaper than they're paying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were 4. I did ask this question when it was first brought, when he first became interim city manager to city manager, because I was concerned about this part of the charter as well. So my question to council at that time was, well, the city of Vandalia just hired their city managers. Do you guys know how many applied for that position? 43, 12 outside of the state. So me personally, as the head of the city, they really need to live within the city limits because they're getting paid a lot of money. They should be here. Let's just say there was a natural disaster. We had the FEMA come in. We're going to wait for like a recall, wait for an hour or so for them to come in from wherever they're living. And so this is a very important position, and this person is he or she is supposed to know everything that's happening within the city, and to get a phone call is not the same as being on site within a few minutes of living within the city. I understand. I also went to the Ohio Municipality League's training, I think, in March, And this is one topic that I brought up. And I said, can you explain to me the Supreme Court ruling? And what it was explained to me was that the lower rank files, we cannot enforce the residency. However, when you're talking about a chartered city such as we are, and if it is in our charter and it says that your city manager should live within the city, then that can be upheld in the law. So if somebody could at least just verify that, maybe I misunderstood it, but I think I asked probably 3 or 4 different ways.
There's under certain conditions it can still be.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, it sounds like we need...
Answer to your question, Nancy, when Mr. Schoen was hired as the city manager, the city didn't undergo, at that juncture, a formal search externally for a city manager as they had done in previous rounds when the city manager changed. So,
why did do you know why that was? I don't know, so I'm asking, why did we not send that out and tell everybody, tell the world?
It was just a decision that they thought they had a viable candidate internally.
Okay, that's okay. I just wanted to ask. So
Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
On the instance that you cited, you said it was Vandalia?
Vandalia had 43 applicants.
Okay.
12 from out of state.
12 from out of state, and who did they ultimately pick? Do you know? Was it a local? I mean, if there are 12 that were out of state, how many of them were from in-state? You know, the remainder of them were from in-state. Yeah. How many were local? Do you know?
That I don't know.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he lived in the city of Vandalia or if he lived outside of the city. That's a good question, but I'll find out.
We did, I think, 3 national searches since I've been here, and 2 of those I was tasked with overseeing that process, and we did get a significant number of candidates, both nationally and in the state of Ohio, that replied as a result of that. So it's just a choice in terms of the process that you're looking at.
Yeah, I guess I just have a problem that if we have a really good candidate, say you have 10, 40, whatever number it is, candidates come in that are in the immediate area, just because they might live in Fairborn or they might live in Beaver Creek or they might live in Miami Township or something, Miami County, why would we require them to incur the expense to move a couple miles in? I don't think
they paid a lot of money, and I think in the contracts, don't we give them a moving allowance? I mean, that can be applied. We did that for a finance director.
That's a negotiated item,
right?
Yeah.
But
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got kids in high school or whatever in another area. Yeah, that's another consideration. I mean, there's just
open enrollment.
Ms. Birch, you love Huber Heights, right?
Yes.
Okay. You're a representative of Huber Heights, Ward 5, right? But you probably take care of the family first, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all basically is what I'm pointing out in that whole scenario is that, like, we're not putting this in here. This was already there. The founders of the city, I think Mr. Campbell was one of them. They put this in here for a reason because they know that taking care of your home, you're going to take care of your home if you're at home, if that's your home. And that's, I mean, for me, it's not personal against any individual. It's just, I think the person is, they're going to...
I understand what you're saying, and Mr. Schomer is just being used as an example. I don't think there's anybody who would question that Mr. Schomer isn't deeply embedded in this community and has served here for many, many years. I could turn around and...
Chief on...
Right, and what if Mr. Leitner, when he retired, Chief Leitner, when he retired, if he decided that he wanted to take on a city manager role...
Does he live in Huber?
I have no idea.
He does now.
Okay.
He actually is retired.
He moved to Huber.
He actually retired and then moved to Huber.
Okay.
And then was rehired.
All right. Well, he was probably a poor example, but the point being that there are other officials here in Huber Heights that maybe don't live here who would be interested but have vested much of their life if Tony decided he wanted to be city manager, you know.
I lived here in the 90s, so I already got my credit.
Yeah.
Grandfather did.
Grandfather. So you know what I'm saying? That
Sure.
I would
And
like
I'm
to
not-
lose a candidate
I-
for that very reason.
I don't doubt that there's qualified